Hello my loves, thank you for joining me on another video. My name is Ennie and I post solved, unsolved and missing persons cases on my channel. If you enjoy this type of content, you're welcome. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Our case today is from the beautiful country of Maldives. It was here in 2001 where a 27-year-old hardworking administrative secretary at a local trade union was found deceased in her office toilet. This is the case of Azleena Nafees. Aslina was born into a large family. She was the youngest of 6 children. Full of life, strong-willed and very smart, Aslina was through her education and wanted to do something for herself. She didn't want to just end up married and having kids. She wanted to work, make money for herself and just be independent. So she landed this job as a secretary at the administrative building of the Traders Union Association in Malé, the capital of Maldives. Initially, everything was going on well. Then somehow, by chance, Aslina stumbles on information she shouldn't have, or should I say, information that she wasn't supposed to know about. So allegedly, Aslina, in the course of performing her administrative duties, had found some flaws in the bills that had been brought to her office for her to handle. Usually, it was just supposed to be signed and then the files would move along to the next department. But this time, she went through it thoroughly, enough to discover heavy corruption schemes. Information that will cause serious scandals if it becomes public. All this she had come across accidentally, of course. So Aslina was this straightforward individual. So when she became aware of this information, she struggled with herself. Should she tell or not? The magnitude of this corruption which she had discovered was astronomical. It was huge, and the people involved, they were way up there above her pay grade. But her conscience wouldn't let her be. If she swept this under the rug and looked the other way, this would continue and only get worse to the detriment of the poor people who worked hard to earn their living. So at the end of the day, Aslina made the decision to hold on to the bills, and when she was ready, she would reveal the truth to the public. At 27, she was young and smart. She knew perfectly well what she was doing. Aslina knew she would be stepping on some big toes if she came forward with what she knew, but she didn't care. She just wanted to do the right thing. I would have loved to know the details of what she knew, but this particular case is one of those that, nothing was out there for you to find. You just had to dig and put the pieces together. For some reason, this case was shrouded in secrecy. Apart from maybe the trial in the court, it was difficult to find anything. And this is one thing I have noticed with cases from the Maldives. Maybe there is a controlled press over there. They try to protect their tourism industry. I have cases lined up to treat from the Maldives, but it's hard to get information to work with. So if you know of any cases from this region and you do have information about them, please send them to me via DM on my Instagram. Let the stories of these people who otherwise would have been forgotten be told. So back to Aslina. Aslina, she was warned by people to just let it go. These corruption cases had been going on way before her, and after her it would still continue. But she remained strong-willed and adamant that she wanted to put it out there and then bring an end to it. One fateful Thursday evening on April the 5th, 2001, everything changed for Aslina. That day, she had been working late at her office when every other person had closed for the day. It wasn't something that she did often, but from time to time, if she had unfinished work, she would stay back to finish it up before she went back home. That evening, a festive jumbo sale was held at Judean School, which was nearby the trade union offices where she worked, but after the whole thing, everybody was dispersed and went back home. It was quiet and calm outside. Mind you, these offices where Aslina worked was huge. It wasn't like a tiny office, To get to her, you have to pass several other offices before getting to the floor where her own office was located. At about 3:39 p.m. to 4 p.m. thereabout, Aslina was pressed and needed to use her office restroom. I'm assuming that the restroom was kind of detached from her main office, so she gets up and goes to use the bathroom, hoping to come back to her desk to finish up the work for the day. But as she enters the bathroom, she hears the sound outside. Her instinct tells her nobody should be there at that particular time, but she probably shrugged it off, thinking it was just another co-worker working late. It's not exactly clear what happened next, but now we do know that right there in her office restroom, Aslina was attacked. She was stabbed severely and she fell to the ground, and the perpetrators just ran off, leaving her there to her fate. Aslina was a woman who was loved both on the streets and at her job. If she called for help, of course people would have come to her aid, but as she lay on that bathroom floor going in and out of consciousness, no one knew she needed help, and eventually Aslina succumbed to her injuries, alone on the cold floor of her office toilet. There were actually other individuals still at the office building that evening, but somehow they didn't get to hear the commotion going on when she was attacked. Aside this, the office was already getting dark inside. It wasn't until the next day, being Wednesday, that her body was found right there on the bathroom floor. This was like 32 hours later after the incident, when staff came in to work in the morning. What happened to Aslina shook the nation when news of the incident broke. Considering the way she met her end, her friends and family were very angry because, without a doubt, they understood what had led to this. Their friend, a loving sister, a daughter, and a strong, confident woman had been deleted from her intention to speak the truth and to help the poor masses. Even though there were so many investigative reports and feature articles concerning this case, it's still difficult to get the proper information on it because, for starters, no one knew the details of what Aslina was holding onto, and then it's in the local language. It's difficult getting it translated, and most of the information is just same information, nothing new or different from the previous reports. Everyone is just recycling information. But that period, Aslina was like the hero for the people, the face of the innocent, the woman who gave up her life for the truth, even though she didn't do it willingly. Investigations began as to what happened to Aslina and who the perpetrators were, because at this point the authorities figured that for this crime to be carried out and executed the way it was, it of course had to have more than one individual involved. So they started by questioning Aslina's colleagues and everyone who worked in that office building with her and the people who had last seen her. It was during the interviews that one particular individual stood out to investigators. It was one Abdullah Zuhair, who was employed as an office assistant in the same building. It's not clear what information was gotten out of him, as they didn't make that public, but during the questioning, he did admit to attacking Aslina that fateful day and taking her life. It's not clear if he did mention the reason why he did what he did or who contracted him to do it. Everything was like hush-hush. But he did implicate two other individuals who had helped him out in carrying out the crime. They were Abdullah Ismail and Ibrahim Hamdi. The three were held in custody while the prosecutors put their case together. Eventually, the trial began in late 2001 or early 2000 thereabout. It's not clear when it began, but in early 2000, during one of the court appearances, Aslina's family, her mother Aisha, her brothers Abbas and Ahmed, and her sisters Maryam Sheyam, Maryam Nazima, and Aminat were all in court, and it was their first time coming face to face with the three individuals who had been accused of hurting their little sister. In August of 2002, it was time for sentencing. Having seen and listened to all the evidences that were brought to him, the judge has stated that the court wished to hear the family's wishes concerning the case. That's if they wanted capital punishment or compensation. The family, except for brother Ahmad, stated that they wanted capital punishment for the three. Ahmad wanted to be aware of all the basics of the case before he made his final decision. Mind you, Abdullah Zuhair at this point had made a full confession and admitted to the crime. His partner Abdul Ismail claimed he was innocent even though he was present when the crime was being carried out. He blamed it all on Abdullah. Then Ibrahim Hamdi was said to be the person mounting the door, the one on the lookout, watching and making sure that no one was coming when the other two were attacking poor Aslina. So that day in court, the family was kind of sitting in a row of seats just behind Abdullah Zuhair when the court asked the family to speak. 34-year-old sister Mariam Shriram was first to speak as she demanded for capital punishment for all three. This moron, Abdullah Zuhair, who had hurt her sister, began to smile, and Mariam, she lost her cool. She lunges at him with all anger and rage, but luckily she was restrained by other family members. I mean, how cruel and twisted can you be for you to be laughing at someone whose sister's life you took? Zuhair was nonchalant. He didn't care what the repercussions were for his crime. He boldly admitted to what he had done and was ready to bear the consequences, but the other two were kind of like sober. Ultimately, the three men were sentenced to life imprisonment, and the three were ordered to pay about 100,000 in their local currency as compensation to Aslina's family. Finally, the family was able to get justice, but did this bring Aslina back? No. And the story does not end here. In October of 2013, after serving only 11 years, Abdullah Zuhair, who had been given a life sentence, was released into society. This was the same man who didn't show any remorse as to what he had done to Aslina back in 2001. When this information became public, people expected that the Maldives Correctional Service would say something regarding this matter, but at the time they didn't. At least I couldn't find it anywhere that they said something about it. Abdullah Zuhair's release makes me to wonder if all this while he knew that whichever group of powerful people he was working for, taking Aslina's life to cover their crimes, were going to pull some strings and get him out of jail in no time. Perhaps that's why he was so arrogant during the trial. I'm not sure what became of the other two convicts, Ibrahim Hamdi and Abdullah Ismail. Even finding their pictures, their photographs, or at least know what they look like was impossible. It's not known if they've been released as well. Abdullah Zuhair, upon his release, gained employment as a security guard for a private company, the Havero News Services, which is next to the Chamber of Commerce in Mali. He was allowed to roam free after all he did to Aslina. At 27, he cut her life short for what? Just to prevent a scandal. Aslina's case would mark the first of many scandal-related cases in the Maldives, but the simple truth and the most annoying part of all of this is that the particular scandal she lost her life for was never found out. It was never known. The details went with her to the grave, and this was exactly what they had wanted by taking her life. Somebody testified and took the blame for her demise, went to jail for it for a brief period, and now the case is closed. Let me know what your thoughts are concerning this case. It's one of its kind. It's not talked about much, at least not on this YouTube platform. You don't get to see anything about Azleena's case over here. Anyways, that's all I have for you on this hard case from the Maldives. If this is your kind of content, do consider subscribing to my channel, and remember to stay safe all the time and to know how to pick your battles. Until next video, bye.